Let me preface this review by saying that my views on this show might be biased. Mecha is the main genre of this show, and I'm not particularly fond of said genre. However, I do not think this potential bias will really matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Tenkuu Danzai Skelter+Heaven, or Skelter+Heaven for short, is a 19-minute long short original video animation from 2004, created by Idea Factory. The anime OVA is based on the Japanese exclusive visual novel game with the same name for the PlayStation 2. I had never heard of this game before, and went into the anime without any prior knowledge of the visual novel. I'll quickly go over the plotline of the show, which, by the way, barely exists. One day in what appears to be sometime in the future, a massive squid-like object appears above Tokyo. Our main character, Funagai Otsuya, is part of some military operation to destroy the squid monster thingy. We don't really receive much more information. 5 humanoid robots called Skelters are brought together to fight the monster. I'm assuming they're robots, since all the dialogue tells me is that they're artificial. Each of the girls mounts their mech suit, and the main character flies a fighter jet, and they head off to the monster's squid thingamajig. As the girls fight the squid thingy, they can't seem to get through its attacks, but after an incredibly abrupt flashback, the main girl, Ichikawa Rin, manages to use the power of her love for the main character to finally get to the squid monster and enter its body. Oh wait, somehow one other girl joined her, but let's forget about that, seems useless to the story anyway. Once again, through the power of love or something, Rin destroys the core of the monster. After all that, we see some rapid fire scenes, and honest to god, I have no clue what this means and whether or not all the girls are still alive. Suddenly, we're transported 1 year into the future, where a dozen or so of the same squid monsters are flying above Tokyo. And that's it. Yeah, it seems like the story writer just gave up halfway through and rushed everything from that point onwards. And the ending is so incredibly ambiguous that I still couldn't figure out what had happened and who's still alive after watching it multiple times. This show is a wreck. But before I dive further into this show's problems, let's have a look at the characters. Our main character is Funagai Otsuya, who appears to be part of the Japanese military. Incredibly bland protagonist, and there's not much information given about him whatsoever. Our main girl is Ichikawa Rin, who we see getting born in the lab, and who tells us she and the other girls have a limited lifespan during some incredibly out-of-place flashbacks during the fight scenes. She has a crush on the main character, but no particular personality besides this. Next on the list, we have second girl Kashima Misaki. Every harem show needs a second best girl to give the best girl some competition. Anyway, Misaki is your typical blonde, arrogant, ara princess type character who thinks she deserves the main character's love more than the best girl. I'd say she has the most interesting personality of the characters in this show, and it doesn't say much. Oh yeah, the character roster also includes the other 3 Skelter girls, Tamura Konomi, Matsumoto Ayaka, and Matsumura Midori, who basically add nothing to the story whatsoever. I assume they're more important in the visual novel or something. It appears that this OVA acts as an advertisement for the visual novel, since it seems like a lot of artwork in the opening and ending sequences come from the game. I'm basing this off the completely different art style, likely the style used in the visual novel. The visual novel art style seems very out of place in the opening and ending and makes it more difficult to distinguish the characters during the sequences, since you're shown all characters in 2 distinct art styles. The opening shows nothing particularly of interest. Basically anything that isn't visual novel art is just reused scenes from later in the anime. The voice acting is pretty lackluster throughout the whole episode. Most of the time the characters show almost no emotion in their tone of voice. Makes the whole thing seem strange and unrealistic. The show is a short animated movie, which makes you think that they could spend a lot of time and money on the animation. But that's unfortunately not the case. Most of the scenes before the fighting scenes consist of a completely static picture with only the mouse moving. When things are moving, they move with the lowest amount of frames imaginable. We'd almost think they forgot to hire the in-betweeners and solely use the keyframes. Most of the fight scenes use 3D CGI mech suits, which would be fine if only the suits didn't look completely out of place. The shading is different from the characters, and there are no outlines either. This makes the suits stick out like a sore thumb from the hand-animated characters that drive the mech suits. And just don't get me started on the 3D animation. Multiple times throughout the episode, which is a whopping 19 minutes in length, there are scenes that have no effect on the story, nor do they enlighten the viewer in any way. The episode starts with a minute-long slow zoom into the Earth, after which follows another 30 seconds of slow camera pans with what appears to be a maximum of 2 parallax layers of artwork. This intro scene is an incredibly poorly paced mess, with the only useful thing being the ear-screeching sound of a voice explaining that an unknown object was spotted above Tokyo. Then the opening follows. Directly after the opening, you're greeted to a news broadcast, which then gets repeated another time for seemingly no reason. Obviously, a shower scene is necessary in any anime ever, including this short 19-minute OVA. And, Finally, I want to quickly touch upon the audio. The background soundtrack is somewhat decent, and the sound effects are also not bad at all, except for the part where the girls enter the monster. Just take a listen to this. I'd say that the audio is the best part of the whole episode. The opening and ending songs are not too bad, but these are not made by Idea Factory, but instead by King Records, who seem actually capable of making something decent. Oh yeah, I guess this needs a conclusion as well. Skelter+Heaven is an animated mess full of bad animation, useless characters, terrible story writing, and an ending so vague that it's impossible to know whether it's a good or a bad ending. It might have been made as an advertisement for its visual novel counterpart, but I doubt it attracted any new players. I give this show a 2 out of 10.